keep away. Set general quarters. Set general quarters.
General quarters, on hands, main battle station. General quarters, on hands, main battle station.
Well, guess what? Tonight, Clint and BZ are going to tear through the gristle of today's screaming headlines and rip out the sinewy tendons of truth ensconced within, all from the hoary streets of Shatramento, Fornicalia, exposing the trembling, toady-sniveling jackanapes, come on, damn it, BZ, and fripperous fopdoodles infesting altogether too much of this great nation of ours. Please feel free to partake of our Shat Room at shrmedia.com, featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrainable bossity of the Zeppmeister, doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts. Some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC. Batteries not included. Tear across dotted line. Hey-ho in Mexico. Patent pending. Warranty void in Montenegro. Tonight, Clint and BZ will talk about a veritable gaggle. No, a shrewdness, a murmuration, an obstinacy. God, a war and a pandemonium, a gaggle, a muster, a covey, an unkindness, a maelstrom, a knot, a shiver, a murder, an intrusion, a smack, a hive, a prickle, yea, a veritable cauldron of topics yonder. Across from me is not Sackheads Clint, and I will be your server and obese somnambulistic reprobate for tonight. Sorry, we don't take American Express or personal checks, and remember, this is an exhibition, not a competition, so please... Jack, would you care to do the line? Remember, this is an exhibition, not a competition, so please. No wagering.
I don't know the line.
Okay.
No wagering.
That's
okay.
Right. That's right. That's okay. So here's the deal. The dealio is that if I move to this, screen. The screen is not cooperating with me. That's not the right screen. There we go. That's the right screen. Now, if you look closely and you're on video, examine that screen very closely. What do you see? Well, I see something that says shrmedia.com. And I see a word there. It says Clint. And then I see an empty chair. So Clint is not here tonight. How sad. But, well, Clint wasn't here last Wednesday night either. So Jack Alexander has said in the past, hey, BZ, if contrarian Clint doesn't feel like appearing, and he's not here tonight, and he wasn't here last Wednesday, he says, give me a call. I'll be happy to show up. Okay, so last night, yesterday, I actually gave Jack a day's advance warning. Customarily, Clint will give me 5-10 minutes warning that he's not going to be there. He actually said, sorry, I'm not going to be there tonight, Wednesday night. And with that, I was able to let Jack know in a sufficient amount of time so that he could kind of step up and be in here in the, tonight it's not the saloon, it's the Sackheads Against Tyranny. So Jack is going to be with us. I promoted the show as 2 secret guests. And, of course, then I splayed 2 faces on all sorts of social media all over the place, and everybody who knows anything knows. Well, hey, one of them was Jack. Yeah, it was. And the second one looks like Sackhead Sean. Sackhead Sean has said that he's going to attempt to get off work in a sufficient amount of time to attempt to get here by about 9 o'clock Pacific. 9 o'clock, 9:15, right around in there. Somewhere in the second hour. So we're eventually going to have 2 people talking, plus BZ, and of course your phone calls if you want to. I've got a ton of stuff to go over. Most of it is not good about California, but I figured that, you know what, screw it. California, not my favorite place to be these days. I have to kind of hang around until the wife decides she's going to retire. Hey, welcome to Mike. Welcome to Jack. Welcome to Wendy. Welcome to the Alaskan in chat and one viewer who's not going to be unmasked because we don't do that here. And something that I had not anticipated at all. occurred tonight. So finally, it's fall, and this is one of BZ's favorite times of years. BZ likes fall, and he likes winter because it's cooler, and I get hot, and I'm not a big fan of heat. It's like Roger Ramjet said, wow, guess it's hot. Must be from the heat. And it's true. In California, spelled with a K, it's hot as hell in Sacramento in the summertime. Maybe that's climate change. Oh, speaking of climate change, tomorrow night, programming note. I indicated that Adam Kokesh will be on tomorrow night. Adam may or may not have a scheduling issue. If he does, that's okay. We will rescheduling him. That's how things operate in radio. So stop just for a second. Jack Alexander, number one, thank you for being here tonight, sir.
You're welcome. So should I be on notice that I'll be back again tomorrow?
No. What I was going to say, which we'll get to tomorrow. Now, I will. I swear to God, I will get to tomorrow. What I was going to say is that, do you have guests on your show?
I have invited people. Every now and then I will. I get the occasional caller that calls in. But as a rule, no, not a lot of people have accepted the invites to come onto the program. The few politicians that I have approached sort of want me to send all of my questions and stick to the script beforehand before they're willing to come on. They don't want any of the tough questions that I want answered. And so I tend to be a bit of a leper in that regard.
Wow, now that's kind of weird. What I was going to do essentially is say that in the talk radio world where you have a number of guests, the first thing that you need to do, and well, Jack, you already know this anyway with regard to how life can screw up on radio, is things can change. You can invite a guest will turn you down. Luckily, a guest will say, no, I can't do it a day or two before, and then you can try to rearrange things. Or guests just won't fail. They'll just simply FTA. They'll fail to appear. And so you have to have enough material to make sure that you cover the amount of time that you had originally slotted for said guest. I always go back to my Alan Thomas story because I feel so bad about Alan Thomas, but he pissed me off so much. When I first started the show in 2017, I've been on just a little over 2 years, about 2 years and 4 or 5 months now. So it's my second anniversary. Yay! I had Alan Thomas on. He was one of my first guests in 2017. And he and I had gone back and forth. Alan Thomas talks about the paranormal, about UFOs, and about Sasquatches. So Alan Thomas, he and I had been corresponding for quite some time, and he agreed that he was going to appear like Tuesday night. Damn it, he's going to be right there. We've gotten the phone call arranged, the time, everything. I've given him a full hour. Luckily, I'd planned, as I customarily do, in advance. And, all right, folks, Alan Thomas is going to be here. It's been about 5 minutes, and he's a little late, but that's okay. I've got some other things to go. So, folks, we're going to talk about this. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour. After about a half hour, I finally get it. Okay, he's not coming on. But because you're a radio host, you can't go 210 over 190 on the air. You have to take it, you have to be measured, you have to tamp things down. But at the end of the show, I was pissed off at Alan Thomas because I thought, I worked long and hard to get you on the damn show, and tomorrow, mister, I'm giving you a piece of my mind. Until I contacted him the next day, and luckily I started off at about 1 or 2 instead of 10. And he actually answered the phone. I said, Alan, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing okay, I guess. All right. Did we have something scheduled for the show yesterday? Yeah, and I'm really sorry about that. I said, do you think, I thought we had everything worked out. He said, yeah, but I don't know. Last night, about a half hour before your show, I had a heart attack. I can laugh about that now. Maybe he can laugh about that now. But if you don't think that didn't make me feel like the world's smallest little piece of crap for getting angry at Alan Thomas for not showing up on the show, and he later said, man, I really wanted to be on your show. But he had a heart attack. So I always try to frame when guests don't show up or something doesn't happen in radio that step back, back up that car. Weird things may have occurred. So have weird things occurred for you on your show, Jack Alexander?
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar case. John Patton from the Gun Collective. I've been trying to get him or Adam Kraut, their Second Amendment lawyer guy, to come on the show and talk about 2A issues. And we've been bouncing and forth. I think we've set this up 5 or 6 times now, and just at the last minute, something has fallen through. And like you, I've been in this game long enough to know that I always expect to be disappointed. Maybe that's just because of my upbringing. I always expect people to disappoint me, so I plan accordingly. Yeah, that way, and I'll mention, hey, I've got this person coming on, but I normally don't say anything now until they're on the phone and it's the day. Hey, I've got this person, and so on, because you sort of promote it a little bit, and then you annoy your audience because they've tuned in to listen to this person, and they haven't turned up for what reason, and with some of the stuff that's been going on with the NRA and gun control stuff, my little show was probably a little bit smaller fish, or something had happened at that end, and our schedules just kept falling apart at the last second. When he was available to come on and do something, I wasn't available at that time to pre-record it. We've tried everything. We continue to talk about it, but it happens. On the other hand, those sorts of cancellations can be a real blessing as well. I went to visit the folks at Radio America many years back, and I'm in there because I'd been involved with one of their programs earlier in the past. So I went into the studio to say hello and stuff, and I was being given the tour around. And then G. Gordon Liddy, who had the 9 o'clock spot there, his guest cancelled, and it was a case of, well, hang on, you're here, you've got a military background, you both served in the military, you're both veterans, and so on. And I got thrust into the G. Gordon Liddy show. And, that opened up a few doors and so on. So, having a guest cancel, it's all in the way you look at it. You can, I mean, if the person is a repeat canceller because, I just couldn't be bothered, you have a right to be pissed. A heart attack or being knocked off your motorcycle on the way to an interview by a kangaroo and what have you, or a deer or whatever. Yeah, those sort of things put things into perspective. But, you're going – the one thing we've all found in this industry, there seems to be 2 extremes. You have absolute, complete and total assholes, and you have absolute legends.
Yes, you do.
In this industry. And there doesn't seem to be a middle ground.
You're right. Okay, for the first time tonight, that is true. Either you've got a guest who is absolutely stellar, and I don't know, maybe you've had guests where somebody's new. I'm not sure what kind of a guest they're going to be. I hope they speak well. I hope they have a good facile knowledge of the King's English. They get on, and it's as though they're interviewing themselves. Every once in a while, I'll ask a question or make an interjection. These folks are off to the races. My God, they're what I call, and a lot of radio folks call, an easy interview, because you can throw a couple of questions at them, and they'll take that, and they'll just run with it and go different places. And at the end of the interview, you think, oh, my God, this gal just made it so easy for me. It was wonderful. And then you got the other end of the spectrum where you have to get in there with fucking forceps. And you got to pry their damn mouth open, and you got to stick that metal in there and pull out their tongue and just start talking. And there doesn't seem to be
exactly
much in between. You're right. They're either a really good interview or not.
I think the best interview I had, and it was complete and utter chaos, was Robin Williams. The
Are you
breakfast show
kidding?
that I was working on.
You interviewed Robin Williams.
He came in. Me and it wasn't my show. I was just one of the ensemble cast. But I had the absolute joy of being in the studio with Robin Williams when he goes completely mental. We'd gotten word beforehand, if there is anything you want to ask Robin Williams, make sure it is the very next question after. How are you doing, Robin? Welcome to the program. Because if you don't get that question in, you are not going to get it in, and you are on for one hell of a roller coaster ride. On the other hand, one of the worst interviews we ever had was Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies. He came in, and he's in Australia promoting, I think it was Police Academy 1 million or something. Some ridiculous. When they get up to 9 of them or something, so it might have been the 9th one, and he just absolutely refused to play the game. You were pulling teeth to get so much as a single syllable out of this guy. It was crazy. And Patrick Stewart was another uncomfortable interview. They're promoting Star Trek, and one TV interview he was on, they'd packed the audience full of Trek fans.
All right.
And he didn't want to look at them. So the whole night he was there with his back to the audience.
What?
Who had turned out to support not only him and his movie. Yeah.
Well, that's just damn rude. The worst interview I think I ever saw, and you can go to YouTube to confirm this, in his latter years, Jerry Lewis had a guy attempt to interview him, and that was a venom-filled interview if ever I saw one. Don't know if maybe he was feeling bad, maybe he was having an off day, but oh my God, if I were that person trying to interview Jerry Lewis at that time, I would have said, hey, have a nice day, see you later, Jerry. Wouldn't want to be you. A lot of things have happened. We have a bunch of topics to cover. A lot of them are going to include California, and I apologize to Jack in advance because Clint, who is not here, maybe he'll be back next week. Don't know yet. A little too early to tell. We generally go with a lot of local topics, and because we're on the Pacific side of the United Snakes of America, we talk a lot about California things. One of the things that occurred was I had ridden, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Collings Foundation. They used to be, I believe, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Confederate Air Force, and they were responsible for bringing back old World War II fighters and bombers and did a wonderful, wonderful job of it. Confederate became a bad word, and I think they transformed into the Collings Foundation. They had a flying B-24 when I saw them and a flying B-17. The flying B-17 was called the 909. The 909, if you could ride on a B-17, this was a B-17. This one didn't actually see combat, but it was one of the last World War II manufactured B-17s. It came out in 1945. A B-17, for those people who are not aware, is a four-engined United States Air Force, at the time it was U.S. Army Air Corps, bomber, which flew over Germany, flew over Europe and whatnot. This one, however, did not see combat. The B-17G is one of the planes that my dad flew for the 8th Air Force, finished his sorties, came back to the United States. So I've always really enjoyed the B-17. The Collings Foundation came to McClellan Air Force Base in the early 2000s, and I chanced to have a ride on 909. And you have, depending on which position you get into, you can pay $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 for about a half-hour, 45-minute ride. And I chose the bombardier position, so I'm in the nose. Of course, I took video and photographs. of all the video and photographs that I took, the ones that were in the air, do you think they came out? Nope, they died. So I flew in that plane. It was a wonderful, wonderful World War II relic. Today, it crashed. The 909, it crashed shortly after it took off from, I think it was Bradley International Airport in Windsor Locks in Connecticut. And it was doing what it customarily does for the Collings Foundation. It becomes a static display for a while, and you can look at it. They open it all up. You can crawl all around the aircraft, and then when it's through being a static display, depending on how many people have signed up, you can, for me, it was like bucket list stuff. Fly on a B-17, fly on an aircraft type that my dad flew. Oh, hell yes, I'm going. And it was about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, almost 45 minutes. Great time. It was wonderful. Oh, my gosh. It really was a bucket list item. So the crash of this plane, it was totaled. I think there were 13 people on board. There's a pilot, co-pilot, and I think they have someone that is the equivalent of a flight engineer for a crew. And then the rest of the people are folks that are in the plane. You can sit at various locations all throughout the plane. And of the 13 people that were on board, 7 were killed. It lost an engine, attempted a landing back at the airfield, and they still don't know exactly what happened. But to me, that really got me. And it kind of shook me up because I thought, these things, built in 1945, they're way over 60 years old, kind of like me. And when I saw this today, I thought, but for the grace of God went me. So I'm very sorry for the folks that were killed. They were doing something that I'm sure that they loved. The crew was certainly doing something that they loved. The passengers wanted to get a ride of their lives. So sympathies and condolences to the crew, the passengers, everybody else. And that really stuck in my throat today. So,
I mean, that is actually a tragedy. And if it's the plane that I'm thinking of, I saw it a little while back when it visited Wichita Falls. As you know, I'm a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol.
Right.
And, we have a cadet division in our composite squadron, and we took them down to see that. So that is an absolute tragedy. It's amazing how close to home that hits for so many people to hear about that.
You may have recognized it. It was it was the standard green on the top, and underneath it was this powder blue color to match the skies. And then it also had a drawing, a really nice drawing of, I think looks like Elmer Fudd on a bomb holding a shotgun for the nose art. And it was a wonderful plane. It was a wonderful flight. I'm so sorry to see that a piece of history like that went down and took people with it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk
absolute tragedy
about and I went in. Okay, let me go here. We don't have any Clint stories, so my guess is you're not prepared. You don't have any Jack stories, but I have a BZ story. And BZ this week went to lunch, and BZ went to lunch at a great place, kind of local, not far away. They have wonderful food, lunchtime food. They'll serve breakfast. They'll serve breakfast for lunch up to about 11:30 or so. They have a great breakfast menu, a great lunch menu. It's run by some really, really great folks who took it over from a business that was not doing so well. Their food is spectacular, but they never had or could keep service. And not having proper servers, they've gone from having 2 to 3 folks serving. They were packed when they first began, and now it's dwindled down to maybe 1, and now the owner and the cook come out, and take your order and serve. You don't, for the area, it's in an industrial area. People who work in industrial areas have a half hour to an hour at the most to have lunch. So if you don't pump out the lunches, you're not going to get repeat business. So people would get, now they're to the point where if they don't get their food, they just get up and walk out. I like the food. I get there early enough that I don't have to worry so much about not getting my food in a timely fashion. But when I do get served, the folks that they have there now, man, they are running their asses off. And literally, they are running. It's not a huge business, but they do run to get your food to you. And I'm watching for the past month or so. Most of these folks aren't tipping. And so I get my food. They do their best to get here. And I leave. It's about a $27 bill. And I leave a $10 tip. And I give it to her in cash because I don't want it going through the register because I just watched her running her ass off to get the food out to the customers and take the orders. So that led me up to the question of, it just came off the top of my head today. Tips. Do you guys tip? What's tipping like in Australia?
I do.
And what's tipping like all around?
Tipping in Australia is not compulsory because your servers all get at least minimum wage.
Right. Same here.
A lot of people will, but a lot of people don't. If I get good service, I will tip.
Okay.
If I get crappy service, I won't. That's me here. In the US, it's a little bit different because a lot of servers are living off of tips only. So I'll usually always tip. Obviously, the better the service, the bigger the tip. But it's not compulsory in Australia like it is there.
Sometimes businesses in larger cities will automatically add a tip to a bill. And I go 210 over 190 when I get something like that. And then they'll add, if you have a minimum number of guests, like you have 6, 7, 8 guests, some restaurants will automatically add a tip to the bill. And the automatic adding isn't like 10% or 50. No, screw it. They go right to 20%. And I tip generally
it's strong.
Very well. Because, again, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when I was in college and late high school, I worked in some food service places as a host and also longer as a food server. And so I had to run my ass off. And when people would tip me, I really appreciated it. Well, damn me if I didn't work in a college atmosphere. And, of course, college kids don't have more than 2 cents to rub together. And my tips were not long and massive, as you might expect. We're going to have to go to a break. When we come back, folks, if you're interested in weighing in on do you tip, what's a good tip? Do you tip if you get service? Do you tip if you get good service? Do you tip if you get bad service? And then if you have worked as a server, I wouldn't mind you calling in because I've already heard lots of war stories about who tips well, who tips the worst, and kind of broken down by sex, by race. It's not good. It's not happy. And the reason I ask that is because I asked some questions of those folks when I went to a restaurant about 2 weeks ago, and I got some rather scathing answers from people that their livelihood. Now, you would hope that you wouldn't have to make your livelihood as a server, but you got to do what you got to do to make ends meet. When we come back with Jack Alexander, I'd like to find out, and you folks can call in. And if not, Jack and I will chat calmly amongst ourselves and talk about that and the various things that I happened to learn over the past couple of weeks about servers. This is the Sackheads Against Tyranny. I'm Sackheads BZ. We're talking to Jack Alexander. With luck and crossed phalanges, Sackhead Sean will come in about the top of the hour, quarter after or so. So don't go anywhere. Maybe this is a great time to hit the urinal. Oh, wait! I'm sorry. In leftist cities, we don't have urinals anymore, do we?
Conservative media. done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the first half hour of the Sackheads Against Tyranny has gone by just like that. Clint is not here. In lieu of Clint, we have Jack Alexander from the Jack Alexander Experiment. And Jack in chat said, hey, who is the masked announcer with the sexy accent? The guy that was doing the Shat Show promo at the very end. The guy's called English Bob. And you can go to various websites and contract him and get him to do your promos and whatnot. So I asked him to lay it on really thick. I'm going to have him do a stinger for SHR, and then I'm going to add some sound effects and stuff on it like I've done with the other SHR stingers. But once I found this dude, it's like he sent this to me. I played it like a kid. I was like a 5-year-old because I played this about 35 times and I laughed as much the 35th time as I did when I played it the first time. I just love the hell out of this guy. So I figured, I'm going to hire this guy again. That's why I will. I'm going to have him do more stuff. We're talking about tipping. This is Jack Alexander from the Jack Alexander Experiment, and this is, damn me for being so rude. Jack Alexander, can you tell folks where they can find your radio show, because you have one too, and you're on 5 days a week, and so where can folks find you and listen to your show?
Probably the best place to find me is on YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can see the live video, the video live stream of the show. I also have my podcast, the Jack Alexander Experiment, that is available through wherever good podcasts are found, even mediocre podcasts. Or you can just head over to the website www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Okay, I think we've summed that up. And you are 5 nights a week, right? 5 days a week?
Yeah.
2 hours.
5 nights a week, yeah. Yep, 2 hours.
That's 10 hours of content. I have to tell you, and I said this.
10 hours of live broadcasting.
Yes, and we're not talking podcasts, because a lot of people will do podcasts. When I first came here, Sackhead Sean said, not that we don't trust you or anything, but you really should do your first broadcasts as a podcast, so that if you screw up, and you're probably going to screw up, you can go back and do some editing and some clipping and stuff like that. And I said, screw it. I've been live before for years, and I'm going to go live again. And I just like the immediacy of being live. And there have been some guests who have said, I'd rather do it earlier than stay up late and go live. But if you insist, I'll go live. And I ultimately insist. There's only one person that I pre-recorded, and he was in New York City. He had a really busy schedule. And so I said, okay, I'll do it for you this time, because I like your books. But if I do it again, I'm going to try to get him to do it live for 2 hours. The guy's name is Terrence McCauley, and he's written everything from suspense to now Westerns. He's big into Westerns, and I'm going to have him back, because now he's 2 books up on me, and I'm going to have to talk to him about the 2 books he's written in the meantime. Folks, you can call if you're interested, 209-284-3210. 209-284-3210. That number in Lodi, 284-3210 with the prefix 209. That's 209-284-3210. If you're from the planet Zephyron, include the universe code 1 plus 209-284-3210. If you just tuned in, well, that's the number. The number is not on the screen. I'm having trouble with the transition, with the frames transitioning tonight. I'll get it. This is another thing I have to tell you. I do have a BZ story. And the BZ story goes something like this. This is an actual honest-to-God studio. And we'll get back to tipping. I swear to God, Jack, we're going to get back to tipping, because you have a story about that. But I left here yesterday in the saloon, and I came back tonight, and it's not dark yet. I can still see, and I almost drove by the studio. Because in front, where customarily there was a tree, now the tree is down. And I almost passed the studio, applied my brakes rather rapidly, had to back up, and somebody cut the tree down in front of the studio. I think, what the hell? I almost drove right by this place. But it's still here. But the tree, I'm going to miss the tree. It kept everything nice and shady. I didn't think it was dead. It still had leaves. So that sounds like a story. In any event, Jack, we're talking about tipping, and you said you had a story of some fashion.
Yeah, actually, I thought cutting down a tree in California was a hanging offense. I mean, given how the way things are there.
I can tell you a story about that, but first I want to hear from you.
Okay, look, I've been blessed in my life through either my military service or just my life as a broadcaster to be able to travel around the world. And traveling and dropping into little restaurants and diners around the world is one of the best ways to travel. And one of the best meals I ever had, I was road tripping. I was based out of Colorado Springs at the time and doing a lot of fill-in hosting work around the U.S. And to learn my way around the country, I would go to Enterprise, and because they were the ones that gave me the best deal. They're not paying me to say that, but that's who I was getting the rental cars off of. And I would rent the cars off them, treat them like shit. But I would road trip around the country. That way, I could learn my way around. And I was heading out the East Coast way, and got into one of the Amish areas. And growing up in Australia, the only thing I ever knew of the Amish was however they were portrayed on TV, which was sort of limited to a TV series about a family, that were on the outskirts of the Amish community. The Harrison Ford film Witness.
Oh, right, right.
And what was the other thing? So that was really my only exposure to the Amish community. I knew that they weren't big fans of technology and electricity and so on. But I'm driving towards New York, and I see a sign, advertising for jerky. For various sorts of meat jerkies. Okay, I've been driving for a couple of hours. After a couple of hours of driving, I like to pull in and have a rest, recharge the batteries a little bit. And in the place that was selling the jerkies, they had this nice little diner. It was run by an Amish family. And me being a practicing Mormon, I do say practicing because one of these days I might actually get it right. I will never call myself a good Mormon at this stage because I have a lot of work to do. But, it was a chance to ask a few questions, compare our spiritual beliefs in Christ and so on. And, I started asking questions of the mother and daughter behind the counter. And the woman said, look, my husband Ezekiel will be coming in for lunch soon. Would you break bread with him? And I jumped at the chance.
Okay.
So instead of stopping for half an hour, getting a bit of jerky, something quick to eat, I wound up stopping there for 3 hours.
Nice.
And had a wonderful discussion and learnt so much about the Amish community. They're not as backwards thinking as we thought. Before leaving, I was invited to come back on Sunday to go to service. And they're not keen on outsiders, but because somebody had bothered to take an interest and look at things in with an open mind.
Right.
And at the end of it, I paid for my meal. I left a tip and so on. Came out, and next thing, Ezekiel's coming in. No. We don't give us a tip. I said, look, put it in the tithing for the weekend. And he was humbled by it. They were absolutely humbled by it, that someone not of their particular persuasion of Christianity would take the time to learn and then make an offering.
Very nice.
And I'd really love to get back there. So when you travel, stop in at all of these little places, because you will actually see the real America. And if this broadcasting gig doesn't work out for me in the US, maybe I'll get into hotshot trucking and just do podcasts from the sleeper cab of the truck, and just go back to traveling around the country and really learning what this country is about.
That'd be actually a really cool idea to do that, and that would avail just a madhouse amount of material for you. All the places that you go, the people you see, the meals you eat, the folks that you meet that you've never seen before, a true picture of America. That'd be really interesting. I talked about tipping, and I customarily tip because as I indicated, I worked as a server for a while, and I know what bastard and bastardette customers are like. And so in the process, I've gone to a fairly consistent restaurant to the point where a lot of the servers know me. They know me by name, and they have a fairly decent idea what it is that I'm going to order. And so now there's a little bit of a riff back and forth and a feeling of comfort with me and them, and they'll talk to me about certain things. It's also a place where I've had to be very careful about tipping because they have said the tips I leave at the table, sometimes people will come and steal the tips off the table. So I always want to make sure that I give them directly to the server so that doesn't happen again. And because of the situation, they know that they are going to get a fair tip from me. I've been talking to them back and forth for a while and saying, okay, who are your best customers? Oh, I should mention, this restaurant is not in the middle of Lily White somewhere. It's kind of in the middle of Ghetto Central. So I'm a member of the VFW when I'm in this particular restaurant. And to me, it's all about the paint job means nothing. I just like the restaurant. I stole that from Ralph Chittum's, the paint job. But I'm a member of the very few whites who go into this restaurant. And so folks will talk to me about all sorts of stuff. And they're really friendly, and I like them a lot. And I hear about their kids. I hear about their house. I hear about their going to school. I hear about the other jobs that they have. And one day, one of the female servers came to me and said, I've just about had it. I've just about had it. What's the deal? She told me a story, and I said, well, stop right there. Who are your best customers and who are your worst customers? And I was curious, and she took a break, and she actually spent about 15 to 20 minutes of her time on a break talking to me about her best customers and her worst customers, and she broke it down to sex and race, and she's black. And I found that very interesting. And she was really, I mean, if you want to talk about somebody that was really frank with me, she was very, very explicit with me. As in, those bastards over there at that table stiffed my ass after I just sweated like crazy to make sure that I got their steak back on time. It was cooked exactly the way they wanted, and they walked out. And they left me $1 tip. And so she had a lot of stories like that, but I wanted to break it down. And I said, okay, who are your best customers and who are your worst customers? And she said, I want to tell you that blacks are my best customers, but blacks are my worst customers. They're tough to please, and they don't tip very well. And I said, well, wouldn't that be sort of customary in terms of the neighborhood that we're in right now, the surroundings, etc., times are tough. And she says, no, I can tell this is purposeful. They know what I do. A lot of these people know me personally, and they'll give me $1 for like a $40 meal or a $40 meal or a $50 meal. And I found that very interesting. I said, okay, well, if that's true, then are you going to tell me that like Caucasoids are some of your best customers and tip you best? And she said, it disappoints me to say this, but yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying. I found that interesting, and I took it with a grain of salt. That's her view on things that are going on. So I thought we're talking frankly, and she was very frank, and I thought I'd go a little bit further, and I said, now, let's talk about men and women. Talk to me about women. And she said, I hate women. I said, no, you are a women's. You can't hate the women's. She said, women are the worst customers. They order something. They change their order. If it isn't perfect, it's always my fault. the cooks can't do anything right for them. And then when you don't please them perfectly, they won't give you a tip, or they'll give you a really small tip. I said, okay, so you're saying women are worse customers and worse tippers than men? She said, without a doubt. And folks...
Sort of sounds like marriage.
And I would have taken a lot of that with a grain of salt, but like I say, I'm in the middle of a neighborhood in an area where the paint jobs don't primarily match me. There are some Caucasoids that step into this, but it's not the nature of the neighborhood that surrounds it, so to speak. But they have great damn food, and I like the servers, and they like me, and I go there, and I chat them up, and they chat me up. But I found those observations very interesting, the race aspect and the male and female aspect. I know that college folks don't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I kind of expect that I'm going to get stiffed on tips. But folks, if you were a server, or if you have any observations on stuff like that, call in 209-284-3210. And if you do, that's okay, because we're going to move on. But Jack, do you have any thoughts, observations, anything like that about tipping? Because apparently you do it, and I do it too.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the race aspect of it all. I spend a lot of time in a lot of the Asian communities because the mother of my children is primarily ethnic Chinese.
Okay.
To the point where even conversing with some of her now departed elderly relatives, I took it on myself to learn a little bit of Mandarin.
Ooh.
And just the pleasantries and so on. And as someone who is not Chinese or even Asian, you go in and you show them the courtesy, even in their own tongue, and the look of absolute surprise, joyous surprise, that, oh, hang on, you're showing a bit of respect, and you're being pleasant in their language surprises the hell out of them. There's this impression, I think, that a lot of us Caucasoids, as you said, might be a little bit rude when it comes to ethnic food, but to turn around and then, say thank you in Mandarin, xie xie, just for simple things like delivering the bill to the table. And let's face it, who wants to be thankful for receiving the bill? But just simple things like that. And there's a Chinese buffet in Wichita Falls that I eat at a lot when I'm back home in Texas, and the different quality of service, and I've seen this not only in the United States, in the places that I go to, whether it be an Asian grocers, a restaurant, or just a business run by an Asian person, and it's the same on both sides of the pond. When they realize that you married, you're associated by marriage or by children into an Asian family, that sort of changes their take towards you. The politeness level comes up a little bit. Because you've bothered to at least try and learn some of their customs and their language, that respect level goes up a little bit further. It's look, I'm not surprised by what you're saying. The paint job does give a certain what's the word? Impression of what people might be like, but then when you surprise them and that the paint job doesn't match the machinery underneath, it pleasantly surprises the hell out of them.
Anyway, I thought I'd mentioned tipping in passing, but there's some other stuff that I want to get to, and one of the biggest articles that I believe came out today came out and emerged with this impeachment thing. And see the smooth transition that I'm making here? Not really. Was an article from the New York Times. I didn't see this coming, and I didn't see it from the Times. The headline is this: Schiff got an early account of accusations as the whistleblower's concerns grew. Now, this is regarding the whistleblower in Ukraine and one of the primary reasons that the Democrats want to impeach President Trump. And Trump calls Adam Schiff Shifty Schiff, which I find amusing. The article goes this way. The Democrat head of the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Adam Schiff of California, of course, spelled with a K, learned about the outlines of a CIA officer's concerns that President Trump had abused his power days before the officer filed a whistleblowing complaint, according to a spokesman and current and former American officials. So what that's saying is that prior to the whistleblower complaint being known, this guy went to Adam Schiff in some fashion. So if that's not a little suspicious, I don't know what is. The early account by the future whistleblower shows how determined he was to make known his allegations that Mr. Trump asked Ukraine's government to interfere on his behalf in the 2020 election. It also explains how Mr. Schiff knew to press for the complaint when the Trump administration initially blocked lawmakers from seeing it. The CIA officer approached a House Intelligence Committee aide with his concerns about Mr. Trump only after he'd had a colleague first convey them to the CIA's top lawyer. Concerned about how that initial avenue for airing his allegations through the CIA was unfolding, the officer then approached the House aide. In both cases, the original accusation was vague. Imagine that. But now this is what you can do these days to undermine this current president. OMB, Orange Man Bad, Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. If you don't get immediate satisfaction from the CIA, OPR, or whatever the equivalent of the OPR would be for the CIA, well, you can just go to your friendly neighborhood, like-minded Democrat to make sure that, he or she will listen to whatever it is that you have to say about anything regarding Donald Trump. I just find this article today coming out in the New York Times very interesting. Very, very interesting. Any thoughts about that or the impeachment? And I've got some, after we come back from the break, I've got some great audio cuts about some of the things that occurred today with Trump. They're fabulous. They're really fun. But Jack Alexander, any thoughts about impeachment, about the Ukraine, about Donald Trump, and where this may be going, sir?
Oh, where this is going is Donald Trump's second term, 100%. But this New York Times story really does highlight the amount of collusion that is going on between the weaponized intelligence branches from the previous administration into trying to destroy the 45th president. Because, look, I don't care who would have been the 45th president. If their name wasn't Hillary Rodham Clinton, it wouldn't have mattered whether it was Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, or even Mitt Romney. We would still be here. We'd still be talking impeachment. We'd still be talking Russian collusion and all of this because they needed Hillary Clinton to be president to use executive privilege to hide their corruption.
Well, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And something else happened today that we're going to go into after the break. I have a Y intersection that I can go down at this point. I want to go... Before we conclude the show, I want to make sure that I get these audio cuts in. And then there was another thing that occurred today with regard to one of the major candidates. And I want to talk to Jack Alexander about that and get his thoughts and feelings. When we come back, you folks can call to 209-284-3210 if you want to weigh in on any darn thing that you wish. We'll be back after this break and some breaking news about one of the candidates today and what that may mean for the future. Thanks to Jack Alexander for being here. Thanks to you for listening live. Thanks to you listening in podcast later on. Thanks to the Alaskan, Mike, Jack, Wendy, and one viewer in chat. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Sackheads Against Tyranny. It's a real chat show. Sackheads Clint is not here, and that has thusly created its very own hashtag. I've seen a couple out on the social media. One of them was hashtag Who Needs Clint. Another one was hashtag Who Needs Clint Anymore. And apparently some of the people got a little upset about that because this is the second Wednesday in a row that Clint has decided he's not going to be here. So he's not here. And in the meantime, during the break, because I had trouble with XSplit at the very beginning of the show, XSplit is the program that runs the video portion of everything. Well, XSplit just crapped out. XSplit just pooped the bed. and I had a hell of a time with transitions and whatnot, so we are running off of Spreaker. I'm looking at Spreaker right now. Spreaker is doing really, really well, and I'm not going to start XSplit up again. I'm not going to start Facebook or YouTube up. I just sent everybody a little message in Chat Room. Hey, stay on Spreaker. Go to shrmedia.com. You'll still be able to hear the show. And you'll still be able to hear, you'll hear Jack Alexander. And in the not too terribly distant future, you may hear another individual. What I was leading up to is something happened today, Jack Alexander, and I'd like your comments on this. Apparently, according to ABC News and a whole bunch of other sources, Bernie Sanders got hospitalized today for a blocked artery, and he canceled a ton of campaign events. And so my first thought is, how is that going to affect his campaign? And if Bernie is out, where does his campaign go? Who takes his place? Because now we know that...
I don't think Bernie was ever really...
You don't think he was a good candidate this time
I don't
around?
think Bernie was ever seriously in it. No. And it just goes to show you just how stressful living that socialist life really is.
It is. He's, I don't know, what is Bernie? He's 78, something like that?
Yeah, 78, 79, something like that. But yeah, I mean, it shows you just how stressful that is. I mean, just look at Barack Obama as well. I mean, he had nice curly black hair when he went into office, and by the end of it, he had aged dramatically, trying to sell us that hope and change style of socialism.
He was big time gray.
Is it just me, or every time I hear? Is it me, or every time that I hear Bernie Sanders talking, I see some guy doing a really bad Gilbert Gottfried impersonation?
Yeah, that's not entirely out of the scope. It's
hello.
It's like last week when I was doing Elizabeth Warren impersonations. Well, you know, I'm gonna take all your guns, and I don't doubt that she's gonna. And I'm gonna give everybody welfare, and I want all the illegals in here as much as possible. Bernie's 78. Donald John Trump is, what, he's 72, I think.
Yeah, but you can tell who's lived a hard life and who hasn't.
The
genetics isn't good to everybody.
Baseball been very, very good to me.
Yeah, not so much for Bernie. Jack, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to interject here. I think that this is the perfect out for Bernie. I think this is his reason to say that. I think that it was scheduled. I think they knew it was coming. I think that
be right.
This is his way of bowing out gracefully and saying, I didn't want to give up the fight, but my body just won't have it. I'm not giving up on you, my little Bernieites, but I have to step out for health purposes and go to one of my 4 houses.
Yeah, because everybody knows that he's not rich. I'm sorry, Jack, go ahead.
Well, it is a good way for him to sort of to bow out, but it's going to disappoint those like Alexandria, occasionally coherent. I mean, I swear that she was really bitching for a spot in his cabinet.
Oh yeah, well, and I think ACO was going to try for a spot in anybody's cabinet, anyone from the left, anyways. Up to and including Joe Biden. And I think that Biden would actually take her at this point. So Biden has become exactly what 4 years ago I said the only way that he could potentially be a runner in this field in 4 years is if he went so far left, he is unrecognizable as the Joe Biden who was a senator, and he's done just that.
So
I think the Alzheimer's disease has already made that point.
Well, the problem is I don't want to give him that excuse. I don't think it's Alzheimer's. I think Joe's your classic Democrat politician from the 70s and 80s who used to be able to say bombastic things and get away with a lot more, blonde in every pond Kennedy. When you used to be able to, do a little bit more backroom deals and everyone was okay with it. When politics was dirty in a different way. And I think that's what Joe is used to. But yet, here we are. I think Joe is stepping into a field of politics that he doesn't even comprehend, but he's saying all the buzzwords, and he's using that Joe machismo that he likes to throw out there like he's a tough guy, and trying to blend the two. But the problem is Joe's campaign's over.
It's always easier being Robin than it is Batman.
Absolutely.
Now Joe Biden has to step up, and he's got to be Batman. And he was the sidekick. I don't think he's ready to be Batman.
Listen, you didn't hear from Biden for almost 3 years in the second term of Obama, because he made the two through the door comment, essentially saying that, when it's okay to shoot somebody when it's time, which is a big lefty no-no. He made a couple other offhand comments, and I think that they put him away for 3 years because they didn't want him to do any more damage to them.
But he was fun to listen to.
Oh, he was great. He was one of my favorite political targets.
Oh, he was a target-rich environment.
He was easy
for the press.
He still is.
If they paid any attention.
You know what? Here's why he's not, in my opinion, now. I mean, he is, he's Sackhead's perfect comedy manure.
Oh, he's great fodder. Great fodder.
But the reality of the situation is, it's just sad now. You look at Joe, and it's just sad. Bernie was less sad. Bernie was less pathetic, because Bernie at least believes what he says.
Oh yeah,
Joe's saying things that he doesn't comprehend on a real level. Like, it's like me trying to teach BZ how to work computers. It's like I can go through the motions, but I have no fucking clue what you're saying right now.
Yeah. Thanks. Great comparison. Love that one. Really appropriate. Thanks. Yeah. Good. No, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead. Pile on, Jack.
Joe Biden certainly proved that today. Hey?
No.
Joe Biden certainly proved that today with the announcement of his gun control plan. 1 second, we're going to take away your ARs, your AKs. It's going to be a voluntary buyback. That's really true. But then turns around and says, look, you don't need those weapons of war like the ARs and the AKs. What you really need for home defense is a bazooka.
Yeah.
Which is an NFA item.
I don't know, that's kind of a cool idea. I'm thinking moats, alligators, piranhas.
I love the idea.
First and foremost, anyone who says
I love the idea, but on the other hand...
Go ahead.
Sorry?
I was going to say, first and foremost, anyone that tells you that you don't need a bazooka for home defense is a goddamn liar.
Yeah, listen.
Oh, exactly.
My God, if it worked for Panzer tanks.
I just thought it was...
Go ahead, Jack.
I just thought it was absolutely funny. Damn international latency on the internet.
It's true.
I just thought it was absolutely. You don't need a weapon. You don't need those weapons of wars, the AKs and 47s. Even though the AR-15 was created before the M16,
yes.
So it was never a weapon of war. That's irrelevant, and it has nice and cheap ammunition. No. What you really need for home defense is an actual weapon of war used in war. It kills tanks, not people. And, you're going to have to go through all the process of getting licensed under the NFA to buy the damn thing.
Okay.
And instead of it costing you pennies a shot, it's going to cost you, because I looked it up for my show, $250 every time you pull the trigger on that mother.
And that's before they start the new taxes on it.
Oh, yeah, that makes home defense affordable. That'll really make home defense affordable.
Sackhead Sean, do you see anything objectionable about that yet?
Here's why he's pushing it. NFA items have mandatory government registration.
Yes.
He's found a loophole to mandate it all, to get that registration. And look, let's face it, it'll be California compliant. It's a single-shot weapon. Even with a pistol grip, it's California compliant.
That's right. That's right. No magazines.
Jack, I know you're newer to the SHR family-ish, but you don't know, and you probably don't recall back in the day when we were lobbying to have an aircraft carrier.
Our own
aircraft carrier. And we had a great idea to make money with it. You get a letter of marque from the government, and then we go hunt Somali pirates. And it was like a hunting trip that you would take to Africa, where you're bound to get one, and everyone would, you pony up a couple $1,000 or however many we can fit on the damn thing, and we'd go hunt them.
We were thinking about what were we looking at? We were looking at the one.
We were thinking exactly the same thing.
We were looking at the one that was down in San Diego.
Exactly the same thing.
Midway. The Midway.
Yeah, we were thinking about refurbishing the Midway.
Yeah, taking her out.
And taking her out. And, dude, that's the it would have, on the side, I don't know what number we would have chosen, but it would have, on the back, it would have said shrmedia.com on the fantail.
Right. Well, absolutely would have. And we would have had catapults for flaming cannonballs, just because that would have been fun.
Oh, you know what also would have been fun is launching flaming 1947 Studebakers down those catapults. That would have been an assload of fun.
And the other thing that we wanted too was an MRAP with the burrito launcher.
Oh God, I can't tell you how much I want an MRAP. Parking that, I told you earlier.
Oh, look.
I want an MRAP in the SHR Media driveway.
Yeah.
SHR is an actual studio, and I talked earlier about driving by the place when the tree was down. Somebody cut down the tree, but I still want an MRAP in the SHR driveway.
Yeah,
and I want the Midway renamed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. But the reality of the situation
You've
is...
taken an idea that I had and you put it on steroids.
No.
Thank you.
I had a similar idea, just getting an old coastal freighter to sail up and down the coast and on a scissor lift inside an open top shipping containers. When the pilots come up, the scissor lift comes up, and there's a guy with a minigun.
See?
Just letting rip on the pilot.
Oh.
And, you just know that these pirates were going to turn whiter than my lily white butthole at the sight of this minigun opening up.
Well, and
you've taken my idea, given it steroids.
This whole idea stemmed from a conversation that Clint and I had years ago, where we were joking about taking a whole bunch of these older small boats and turning them into like literally one-person PT boats. And eventually it merged into you need a larger old boat, and to turn it into an aircraft carrier for an RC plane, and just have this whole flotilla of like one-man boats floating down the river would be comedic. And then it kind of spiraled into, wait a minute, if we can get an aircraft carrier, then why don't we get an aircraft carrier? And why should we not be allowed to have an aircraft carrier? And it just went from there.
Well, and we also liked the whole letters of marque thing.
Yes, letters of marque are brilliant.
And we really dug the fact that letters of marque are spelled MARQUE.
Yes.
That's what really appealed to us. Let's be honest.
Ron Paul, it was his idea. When Somali pirates were first starting, Ron Paul's idea was to issue letters of marque.
Yep.
So, to get back to the legitimate concern, which was Joe Biden. Look, Joe Biden's done. His bazooka idea, as much as I think that we should be allowed to own bazookas, his bazooka idea is not going to... We can call him Bazooka Joe. How did we miss that?
God! That screams. It screams that in and of itself.
Already been done. You're behind the ball on that one. Already done that. Already did that joke 3 hours ago.
Fine, I'll fucking call him Jughead then.
Damn it, Jim.
But yeah, no, it's one of those things that, look, Joe knows his campaign is sinking faster than a Somali fucking ship. It's going down quicker than a Times Square hooker. It is flailing.
What do you mean by that?
Going down faster than Camilla Harris at a job interview.
Yeah, originally for Willie Brown.
But the reality of the situation is he is doing anything.
I got a laugh out of Jack. Did you hear that?
I did hear that. That's good for you. He's doing anything he can to stay relevant right now, and he's doing anything he can. These are all Hail Marys he wanted to pull out next October, when it was, in his mind, him against Trump. And he's starting to pull this stuff out now because, let's face it, his back is up against a wall. Everything that's coming out about his son, his comments about holding back money, and now you have the photo, even though he said he has no idea about his son's business. There's the photo that was on Fox News of him golfing with his son's business partner. Joe is done. Stick a fork in him. He should have stayed done. He didn't stay done. But he is done, in my humblest of opinions. And now, look, Cory Booker already sent out an email last week saying that there's a good chance he's going to shut down his campaign.
He said he had to get $1.5 million immediately or he was toast.
Yep, and he's toast.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and thanks to John Bon Jovi, he got it. He got the money thanks to John Bon Jovi.
Yeah,
So
but he's still not going
in it.
anywhere. Nobody's going to elect Cory Booker.
Yeah. Well, none of them are. None of them are.
Nominate.
That's why Hillary Clinton's dusting off that. That's why Hillary Clinton's dusting off that house coat from one of your other shows to get back in, because Nancy Pelosi has thrown the entire Democrat Party under the bus.
It's amazing
as far as all of the current nominees are with the whole impeachment thing, and then turning around and saying, I don't care if we lose the House, just as long as we impeach Trump. There are so many people that I knew that were sitting on the fence, and for her to turn around and say, I'm going to scorch the earth just out of spite and a vendetta.
Yeah, because I can.
They're voting Trump. They don't necessarily like him, but they're going to do it because Pelosi has just turned the Democrat Party into something that they no longer can tolerate, and they hope that getting slapped 6 ways from Sunday, that they'll wake up and they'll change course and at least come back more to the center.
Well, Jack, I mean, let's be honest. What's one thing Democrats hate is when people find out what their true agenda is. And 100%, that's I believe that wholeheartedly. They're mad at Beto O'Rourke because he said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming for your ARs," and that was too quick. They don't want it to be that obvious because they go with this nudge portion of gun control where they try to slip you to where they want. I'm serious though.
No, you're right.
There's a reason they didn't want Gavin Newsom as governor yet, because he's too bold and they don't want that out there.
Yeah.
And now
we've got recalls for him.
Right, but now you also have representatives that are outright saying, I don't care, it doesn't matter, we're going to impeach him, that's the most important thing. And what that's telling the American people is that it is personal versus political. This is a personal thing.
Sure it is.
And they want the power grab. And instead of trying to win an election, and in a way, I don't feel bad for Nancy Pelosi as a human being, but I think as a party leader, I feel bad for her because she's lost control.
Oh, she is the Sino, without a doubt.
Right.
She is the speaker in name only.
Before everyone starts saying, oh my God, Sean has sympathy for Pelosi. No, I just mean like being in that situation where it's like, you used to have all this control. Everybody played by the secret rules. Nobody stepped out of line, and they jumped in when they were supposed to so you could unify to win an election.
Yeah.
And now they have all these wingnuts
all
that they can't control.
Gone to hell.
And it's gonna cost them, mark my words, it will cost them the House. They will not take the Senate, and they will absolutely not have an elected president.
You were talking about Beto O'Rourke, and I finally realized how to do a good Beto O'Rourke. I've started doing Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
But here's how you do Beto O'Rourke. And
He's a little more guttural like this.
This is how it fit into my head. Take Keanu Reeves in his teens and have him smoke a big splib, and then Beto is like talking like this, like a valley dude.
Yeah.
That's Beto O'Rourke.
Kind of like a young Tommy Chung.
Yeah.
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 And
so that's your Beto O'Rourke.
Here's the issue with Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke thought he was a rock star, and he's not. People see, and I think even young Democrats see through him like cellophane.
He got a shot today on social media. They rolled up his sleeves, gave him a shot, gave him a flu shot. He winced.
Yeah, of course he did.
It's like, God, you can't even take a shot.
So that would tie him in closer to millennials, because
I can't have a shot.
Yeah, oh my God, why am I getting a shot? You start looking at the party. Well, now you have Bernie gone. You have Beto O'Rourke is feckless.
No,
he is
going nowhere.
At best, he's going to run for state senate, and probably that's where he's going to live for a few years. You have, like I said, Corey's done. It's going to be Elizabeth Warren unless Hillary decides to step back into it.
Now, let me throw this out. And Jack, I don't know, but I think you heard this last night on my show. Kaiser was on the show, and he threw this out, and he said, okay, what if, and this was kind of brilliant, what if, or is it way far out, what if it's Elizabeth Warren, and then Elizabeth Warren brings in Hillary as her vice president, and then at the last second, she says, you know, I'm really glad and happy that we've managed to get this massive base going, but it's too much for me. And by the way, she got cheated. So I'm supporting my new president for the Democrat nominee, and it's Hillary Clinton.
No. And here's why. She's a selfish enough. She's too selfish.
She'd take it.
No, Hillary would take it. Elizabeth Warren would not give it up. Elizabeth Warren completely believes that she's the new face of the party. She believes that she's the new leader of the party. And she believes that she is bridging the gaps that Hillary could not. I believe that she thinks she's like Hillary 2.0. If anything, I could see her dragging Hillary out to run as VP.
Yes, I could see that.
That I could see. And Hillary would absolutely say yes, because I need the power and I need to get back in. And I think that would actually be a dangerous ticket, because you would run into the same thing that you ran into with Barack Obama. There would be a lot of people that would vote just to feel good about it. Well, this made me happy. I voted for the first woman, the first.
What a wonderful.
Instead of voting with any sort of reason or logic. And I think that would absolutely happen. But, you know, at the end of the day, none of that matters, because what the Democrats are showing now and the sound bites that they're giving now, and you have people like Rashida Tlaib still just going on Twitter and being completely
when we come back,
volatile and horrible.
I've got some great audio cuts, and I've got some great stories about something like that when we come back. They're absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And then didn't Pocahontas come today and say something similar to, everyone that crosses the border should have free medical care?
Well, if she didn't, she should have, because why should they not?
Why should they not?
Dear God.
And they already voted, the Democrats already voted to create a health care system for illegals, while veterans have asked for that through the VA for years and years, and the Democrats voted that they're going to create a database to help medical issues with illegals before they're going to do that for veterans.
Well, here's my favorite thing. I saw a meme this week, and one of these leftist medical websites for pushing for single payer systems tweeted, "What's the craziest medical bill you ever got?" And somebody's put, "My tax return when I know it has to go to illegal immigrants." And I was like, well, no, I can't even argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime anybody puts illegals before our veterans, the conversation's over for me.
They should go straight to hell.
The conversation's over for me. There's
done.
no more conversation to be had. And I think that's something that everybody on the right, from Trump on down, needs to adopt. Hey, we're not even talking about that until we fix the VA and fix it for vets.
There's so many other things to do for the vets before we even remotely consider something like that. We got to go to a break. When we come back, it's Jack Alexander, and it's Sackheads Sean, and it's Sackheads BZ. And you're listening to the Sackheads Against Tyranny. It's a real chat show. And when we come back, I'm going to have some great audio and some more great stories. So, folks, if you're thinking about going away, don't. Well, okay, maybe you got to go to the electric Winkle chamber. But after you do, come back, okay?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real Shat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's Sackheads BZ. That's Sackhead Sean.
Yes, I am.
And there's Jack Alexander.
G'day.
And there's Jack Alexander. There he is. And we are the Sackheads Against Tyranny. We're a real shot show here tonight. I want to play you. This is an audio cut where Donald Trump talks about Adam Schiff and the whistleblower. And this is just, Trump is speaking to reporters as the impeachment inquiry escalates. And if you want, I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3 more audio cuts after this. These are glorious. Listen up.
It came out just before you and President Ninishto walked out here that the whistleblower met with a staff member of Adam Schiff prior
I
to
love
the
that
complaint
question.
being filed.
It shows that Schiff is a fraud.
And
I love that question. Thank you, John.
So can I finish asking it?
Yes, there's nothing to finish.
So So the whistleblower, according to this report, met with a member of Adam Schiff's staff. You got it right there. You know it.
I hate to say it's the New York Times. I can't believe they wrote it.
Your
Me neither.
Maybe they're getting better.
Your response to the fact that happened and that Schiff may have learned some of what the whistleblower knew prior to the complaint.
Well, I think it's a scandal that he knew before. I go a step further. I think he probably helped write it. Okay? That's what the word is. And I think it's, I give a lot of respect for the New York Times for putting it out. Just happened as I'm walking up here, they handed it to me. And I said to Mike, I said, whoa, that's something. That's big stuff. That's a big story.
It is.
He knew long before, and he helped write it, too. It's a scam. It's a scam. Just to finish on this, I appreciate it. I love that second question, by the way. Should have asked it first. but let me just tell you, the whole thing is a scam.
I love him.
The Mueller deal was a scam. The Russian collusion was a scam. You can ask Putin. Nobody's been rougher on Russia than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Okay?
Killing Russians
now, with that being
in
said,
Syria.
it'd be great to get along with Russia. And we will get along with Russia because it's smart. But nobody's been tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. Okay.
It's true. That's why they hate him, and that's why I love him.
Can we just talk about Adam Schiff for a second? Great question. I couldn't believe the Times wrote that. I was blown away. Normally the slides.
We talked about that very briefly at the top of the hour, just before you got here.
Look, Adam Schiff, for the fact that he hasn't been censured completely by the House, and the fact that there's not recall into effect.
Well, that tells you where the House is.
The simple fact of the matter is Schiff open, bold face, mouth open lies constantly, and nobody gives a shit.
No, googly eyes.
That's the part that kills me. He says these bombastic, completely untrue, no chance of being true things. Nobody calls him on it. And then when people do call him on it, he gets all pissy and moany. It's mind-boggling to me how anybody on the left, and I don't care, look, if you're a politician, you have to know where that bullshit line is. I'll say everything right up to that line. I can't cross that line. That's stupid. It's political suicide. He keeps going.
But there's been to date no price to pay.
Nope.
They have not had to pay a price.
And it's sad.
It's
absolutely sad.
You talk about a lie. I have audio now. Here's Nancy Pelosi. You're going to hear her say that there's no requirement to bring a floor vote with regard to impeachment in the House. There are some Republicans that are nervous about bringing a vote to the floor. But I want to tell everybody listening, as I'm sure you already know, she's putting on a show. This is all kabuki theater. Impeachment is done by 51% of the House. That's what it takes. So if she says, well, there's no vote, well, guess what? There's no impeachment at all. But that's what she says, and here is her saying it.
Yes. Have you taken off the table, or do you plan for a full House vote on impeachment inquiry? And Chairman Schiff, as the White House seems to be, in your words, you're worried about interference, delays. In the past, sometimes it's taken a long time, years.
It's Schiff and Pelosi, I should say.
Testimony from the White House. Are you preparing for a court battle, and how do you make sure that happens in what you say in an expeditious manner?
First of all, there's no requirement that there be a floor vote. That's not anything that is excluded.
Stop. Lie. Lie. Not one person. Well, no, let me not say that. Let's just listen. Did one person brace her on that lie?
By the way, there's some Republicans that are very nervous about our bringing that vote to the floor.
Yeah.
Just say that we are concerned that the White House will attempt to stonewall our investigation, much as they have stonewalled other committees in the past. It's why I say the White House needs to understand that any action like that, that forces us to litigate or have to consider litigation, will be considered further evidence of obstruction of justice.
Okay.
Stop.
Yep.
So a couple funny things. And here's how this is going to play out. They're going to ask for things that they knowingly know that the White House can't just outright release.
Correct.
The White House is going to say it's classified. I can't
Correct.
release this because of X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
They're going to turn around and scream obstruction. We've seen this before. This is their ploy. This is what they do. They haven't fucking figured out to stop putting their finger in the goddamn light socket, which just makes me laugh. It has yet to work. It hasn't worked yet. Not a fucking once has this whole obstruction, Trump collude thing worked. They're on Australia now. It is a fucking joke. They are a joke of a group of people. This is their Hail Mary. They get nothing else. They don't have any other way to try to win other than to get him to get kicked out. That's it.
He's the Teflon Don.
And
everything has just gone nowhere.
Because nothing's there. That's why it's gone nowhere. The other side of it, too, is to say that there's not a requirement for the House vote is absolutely bullshit. And it's in the House rules. It's very simple. But the second thing, to say that Democrats are really nervous to go to Republicans are really nervous, that's a bold-faced lie, too.
Sure.
Democrats are nervous because any Democrat that's in a purple district or anything where they're losing ground in their district is not going to fucking vote for impeachment.
My Congress critter.
And is going to embarrass the shit out of them.
My Congress critter, Tom McClintock, said 2 weeks ago on impeachment, do it.
Yep.
Bring it to a vote. Stop talking about it. Just bring it to a vote right now.
They will not. They are cowards. They're absolute fucking cowards.
It's kabuki theater to jerk off the rest of their electorate, their far left constituents who want them to be seen as doing something, and then Pelosi creating that convenient excuse, well, if we don't win the House, well, we did the right thing by impeaching Trump.
Right. Well, and the other side of it, too, is this will eventually turn into we didn't have enough votes and we need more votes in the House, so go out and vote this year, et cetera, et cetera. Because, look, at some point, somebody's going to have enough common sense to turn around and say, we need to stop chasing this because we're a year outside the election, and this is no. The operatives are going to start saying that. These politicians that are out in front are idiots, and we know that. The operatives are going to say, we need to go somewhere else because we're going to lose the House. And once that realization is realized, it'll change.
Do you really think they possess that ability? Jack, do you think they can do that?
I actually thought that Nancy Pelosi was at that point trying to pull the whole thing back up until the time she announced the 6 committee hearings. So I thought she was already trying to do that, but obviously, the squad who and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who was definitely after her spot as Speaker of the House, or at least the House minority leader. So that sort of bullied Nancy Pelosi backed Nancy Pelosi into a corner to have to go and do this. So I already thought that somebody had actually come up with a bit of common sense there and say, look, back this off. We are losing, but obviously, most of the players in this are from the open sewer that is the Union of Soviet Socialist California. And they've been smoking too much of that legalized marijuana because they've completely lost the plot.
But that's giving them too much credit.
Articles of impeachment thing. But as far as the whole articles of impeachment thing, why waste the time with this? Al Green has already presented numerous articles of petition articles of impeachment for a vote. All they've got to do is vote on it and get it done with.
That's exactly right. He started.
They know that the Senate's not going.
But then it puts them on record.
He started it 3 years ago.
Oh, hell yeah, he started it. If you want to hear Al Green is a representative from Texas, okay? And he came out.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. He came out and said, this is the plot, the plan of the Democrats. It's if we don't get the impeachment, he's going to get elected. And then Al Green actually said that.
I've been calling for starting articles of impeachment since 2017.
Yes.
But a new Quinnipiac poll taken after the release of the redacted Mueller report found that 66% say Congress should not start impeachment proceedings. And there's a sharp partisan divide, as we all know, with only 4% of Republicans favoring impeachment. Congressman, are you concerned that impeachment talk may actually help the president's reelection?
I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
There you go. That's all you need to know.
By the way, I think that Republicans that are supporting impeachment are supporting it from the standpoint of, go ahead, impeach him. He's not going to get convicted, and that'll end this for good.
I wish I had that confidence. I don't. Here's an interesting video bit from Tulsi Gabbard, of all people. And she's kind of, to me, it seems like she's casually trashing the Democrats. And this is unusual.
Concern all along has been that impeachment has been something that has been used as a partisan talking point to undo the results of the 2016 election. My view has been and continues to be that the American people need to be the ones whose votes and voices defeat Donald Trump in 2020.
Do you think Democrats are stuck on trying to undo the results of the 2016 election?
I think there certainly have been a lot of voices who've been looking for a reason to impeach Trump because they did not want to accept the outcome of the 2016 election, which is unfortunate because it...
Wait a minute. Is this Tulsi Gabbard being a Republican plant? Wow. Didn't see that coming.
If you are in a purple or red district and you're a politician, the best thing that you can do right now is circle your wagons around not impeachment.
I got another audio cut.
The talking points that...
Go ahead, Jack.
The talking points that Tulsi Gabbard is using are the very same talking points that all the Democrats used when Bill Clinton was being impeached.
Yep.
Oh, it's violating the people's voices.
Right.
It should be up to the people to decide. The difference is Bill Clinton actually did commit a crime. That's the big difference in all of this. Last time I looked at the federal statutes, beating Hillary Clinton in a fixed election wasn't a crime. They want it to be one, but it's still not one. And as far as I know, being an arrogant, obnoxious son of a bitch isn't a crime. Otherwise, I'm in deep shit.
Speaking of obnoxious, I got to play this before the show ends. I found this. This is 1 minute. And it's our friend OMB. Take a listen to this.
You want President Zelensky to do about Vice President Biden and his son Hunter?
Votes and voices defeat Donald Trump.
Yeah, it was just a follow-up of what I just asked you, sir.
Listen, you ready? We have the president of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you, which
did
was,
you hear
what
me?
did you want?
Did you hear me? Ask him a question.
I will, but
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
No, sir, I don't want to be rude. I just wanted you to have a chance to answer the question that I asked you.
I've answered everything. It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you and the fake news media that we have in this country. And I say in many cases, the corrupt media, because you're corrupt. Much of the media in this country is not just fake, it's corrupt. And you have some very fine people, too. Great journalists, great reporters. But to a large extent, it's corrupt and it's fake. Ask the president of Finland a question, please.
Okay, I'll move on now.
A president has never, ever, ever addressed the press like that, and that is one of the primary reasons they hate him so absolutely viscerally. It is visceral, the hate that spews from leftists and Democrats and the American media maggots. He says things we've been thinking for years and have been waiting for people to say.
Well, yeah, and it's always been one of those things with him that has always rang with people by and large. And I even think that some people on the left, as much as they may hate him, they don't mind seeing, because you have to understand, These news media maggots are very transparent. And I think if the coin was flipped tomorrow in the world, they'd be the same way on our side. And they know that. They'd be like this with the conservatives if it targeted the people they were trying to target. And I think people know that. And I think even older Democrats get upset about the fact that, long gone is the day of the actual newsman. There are people out there now who it's very self-serving to try to get ahead. You say these things to get your 15 seconds of fame so you can be famous.
Perfect example, Jim Acosta.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Acosta's a step above a moron. In the sense that, the moron doesn't work at CNN. That's really the only reason why he's a step above a moron. And
the only reason you don't see him anymore is because Sarah Sanders and whoever took her job, they're not having daily press briefings because it turned into the point where the daily press briefing was nothing but a podium for dribbling statements and very few questions.
Right. I agree. And it's just ridiculous.
And I think a lot of the problem with the media is also how journalism is being taught these days, or how it's been taught for a long time. There's two mantras that I was taught when I got into this whole broadcasting game was when it comes to news, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
And never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And certainly with the media these days, that whole mantra of never letting the truth get in the way of a good story, or using the Rahm Emanuel take on it, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yes.
That's how they're really pushing it these days.
Well,
they've got to concentrate on all this because they can't concentrate on the low unemployment numbers. They can't concentrate on the strong economy. They can't concentrate on business manufacturing coming back to the United States. They can't concentrate on massive international agricultural sales. While they might not be as good as some people had hoped, it's still a massive win for the country. Everywhere you look, Donald Trump is winning, and they have to do these distractive plays to try and stay relevant and in the news.
We just got a massive soybean agricultural contract with Taiwan. There were many people in the Midwest worried that their agricultural products were going to die on the vine. Well, that's wrong, too, because we just picked up this massive contract. There's another story that just came out probably a couple of weeks ago. Go ahead.
Weeks before that, it was $7 billion worth of corn to Japan.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Good point. I'd forgotten about that. And then under the radar, this happens as well. While no one was watching, OMB decided that he was going to nominate a massive wave of California judges in an attempt to long overdue to reshape California courts. Mm-hmm. He nominated a ton of judges to posts on California-based federal courts, ramping up what should have been a massive effort to reshape the judiciary here in California with a K, and he hit a milestone that no one else told you about. He got the confirmation of the 150th federal judge on his watch. 2 of these nominations are for that piece of crap San Francisco Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, a massively lengthy liberal court in San Francisco with jurisdiction all across the American West, and their makeup is actually changing now, and this is going to hold for decades now. But you haven't been hearing about that.
Yeah, I know the Democratic senators from Nevada are pissed at this because they're saying, "Well, we had our own recommendations, and we didn't give it the blue ticket on this." So the 2 Democratic senators in Nevada are furious over this.
Yeah, ain't it great?
Here's the other thing too. Getting back to reporters. I feel for people that legitimately want to be reporters and cannot find an outlet to do it in. I know
that's
I don't mean
that's
blogs,
a huge issue.
I don't mean blogs. I don't mean political commentary like we do. I mean legitimate reporters who just want to go out there and actually report news as it stands, because there's nowhere for them to be employed, Fox News included.
It's sad to say there's only a handful of people on Fox anymore that are moderate to right. Everybody's moderate to left now on Fox, and that's because of the change of
but
the...
I'm not talking left to right. I just mean a reporter.
Oh, well. Yeah.
And I hate to say it, the only guy I see now that separates politics from reporting on a fairly regular basis on Fox is Trace Gallagher. I think does a pretty good job of when he's reporting on a story that it's just the story.
Oh, they have good reporters. They do. Maybe we should differentiate between reporters and hosts.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Actual reporters, journalists who are just trying to report a story without a slant one way or the other.
Catherine Herridge, I think she does a damn
I
good
think
job.
Catherine Herridge does a pretty good job too. But, you know, that is when you get to the news hour and stuff like that. When your host of the news hour is jaded, it makes the news hour jaded. It doesn't matter what your reporters are saying. I mean an actual outlet, newspaper, TV show, radio, where it is nonpartisan, just facts. I don't want to hear about a shooting, 10 blocks from my area, and then hear about why it affects gun control. No. I just want to know the news
just
part
give me
of
the
that.
facts of the
If I
shooting.
want politics, I know where to go get politics.
And then I'll go to the op-ed when I want to go to the op-ed.
Yep.
See, that's the biggest trouble. And, we are in Sacramento, which is the capital of California spelled with a K. We have a newspaper here. It used to be a 2-newspaper town. It used to be the Sacramento Union, which came out in the morning, and the Sacramento Bee, which came out in the afternoon. I worked for McClatchy Broadcasting for quite some time in the 1970s. That was back when Eleanor McClatchy was actually alive. The Sacramento Union traditionally had been a center-right leaning newspaper. The Sacramento Bee was a center-left leaning newspaper, and they kind of, I can't say canceled each other out, but they kind of offset various viewpoints, certainly in their op-ed pages. The Sacramento Union is what was gotten going by, for example, Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm.
He helped to set the Sacramento Union. The Sacramento Union disappeared. The Sacramento Bee now, if you go to sacbee.com, I guarantee you, if you go there right now, you're going to find every story that's in there belongs on the op-ed page.
Yes.
There is no real news in the Sacramento Bee. It's a news article swathed and coddled in op-ed.
Mm-hmm. Everything's
Period.
an opinion. And I think that's the biggest problem in when it comes to the media. And the left has presented this because they've gotten rich off of it, and they've pushed the idea, and they've used the idea of using media as a weapon to influence politically. And the problem is they're not honest about it.
Oh, God. Not in the slightest.
At least, as much as I hate the Young Turks, at least TYT is a little bit more honest about who they are. They'll tell you they're leftists and progressives. Okay.
That's what I enjoyed about Bernie.
But you get CNN, who will deny that they have a lean one way or the other for the most part, even when their reporters are caught saying it. When you have former ABC news people who now come out and say, no, that whole thing, we were told to push a certain direct, all of that, and people still go to them every day. And that's what's upsetting to me.
Jack, we're going to have to wrap up the show. Where can people find you and your show?
Monday to Friday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern on the Jack Alexander Experiment YouTube channel, or better yet, just head over to www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Okay, great. Now, with luck, I will have Adam Kokesh tomorrow night. There were some scheduling issues involved. I am hoping that he will be here tomorrow night. I don't know for sure yet. In any event, there will be a Berserk Bobcat Saloon tomorrow night. With luck, in the first hour, Adam Kokesh, who is running for President of the United States in 2020 as a libertarian. Really hope he's here because he's got some unique views.
I want to give everybody a word of advice, and I got this off Twitter. The guy's name is @AndrewNadeau0, but this is probably the best word of advice I've heard all week. If you cannot think of the word, don't just say I forget. Say I forget the English word for it. That way people will think you're bilingual instead of an idiot.
Okay, that deserves... Most definitely. Oh, my God. That's... If there was something that was perfect, that's it. I'm sorry. I just can't think of the English word for that today.
I'm not an idiot. I just can't think of the English word.
Yeah, I know. Because I'm thinking in so many languages. Jack, thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll have you back. Hey, thanks for being here, Sackhead Sean.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Appreciate it.
It's always an honor and a privilege.
No, it really is nice.
Yeah, I started the fucking thing, so I might as well come back occasionally.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks to Jack. Thanks to Sean. He's still the owner, and I'm just an employee here.
Yeah. By the way, you
working for tips
last week.
That's right. Okay. So we'll see you next Wednesday. Hashtag who needs Clint?
Bye, Big Nose.
Bye, Big Nose.
Good night, Big Nose, wherever you are.